If someone had told you, well, first of all, 80 years ago, no one knew what Iron Man was.
That's a fact.
If someone had told you 30 years ago that the Ironman World Championships, 70.3, the half distance, would have their big, beautiful sculpture in the heart of downtown St. George, and we'd have thousands of people a week at that town square, what would you have thought?
Well, I wouldn't have believed it 20 years ago.
Hey guys, Jeremy Larkin here with, I think, the better Larkin, Dale Larkin, my father, who is, as we film this, is 80 years young. Aren't you?
Right, young. I like that.
Did you play golf today?
I did and had a great time.
Incredible. Listen, this guy golfs, he lives here, built an incredible business here in Washington County with a legacy. Today we're walking and talking about what your life was like 80, 75, 50 years ago and what you've seen here in Washington County. Let's check it out. In a world of tearing down sculptures, this one's pretty neat. Nobody's tearing this one down. Who is this, Dad?
This is Robert Gardner Jr. He was known as the Watermaster in St. George.
And he drove, it's to signify that stake being, they say it's at the center where the Iron Man logo is, as what? What was it?
Well, that was just the intersection of which everything went. Main Street, Tabernacle, from here you go east, so many 100 east, 200 east, you go west, the same, north and south.
There was nothing south of the St. George Temple, which is
no.
6 or 7 blocks.
Even when I grew up, there were only a very few homes south of the temple, very few.
You were born in...
And east of the temple, about 2 blocks.
You were born in what year?
1941.
Okay, he still remembers. I'm just making sure.
Yep.
The guy's sharp. I'm just teasing him. And they said this is the center of the city. And of course, if you think there's any other center of the city today in Washington County, you're crazy. This is the absolute center.
Yeah.
What is your earliest memory of living in St. George? Because you grew up on Flood Street. What's your earliest memory?
Earliest memory to me was we walked right across this sidewalk right here from Flood Street, 400 East, every day to school, over here 1 block, back at lunch, over back to school after lunch, after an hour lunch, and back home. 4 blocks, 5 blocks, because the school was 1 block over.
This was the only school, right?
So,
the Woodward School.
Well, Woodward, but this was St. George Elementary.
Uh-huh.
So, you know, you talk about you walk uphill in the snow no matter what.
Yeah.
We walk 20 blocks every day to school. Because
It's classic.
It's 5 blocks each way, 4 times.
Yeah.
And that's what I remember most.
And my kids, Billy,
right across here.
When I asked my kids to ride their really expensive mountain bikes to my house, they're like, "Whoa, Dad!" Rumor has it, and I don't think it's just a rumor, that you have a criminal past. That one day that you ditched school around 5th or 6th grade. Can you tell us what happened?
Well, yeah, we didn't like the teacher. He had a substitute teacher. Mr. Cannon was great, but I won't mention it. He was a sub.
He's probably dead by now.
We decided at noon that we weren't going to come back to school. We were going to go over the Black Hill, right up over the Black Hill, past the D,
over
right
the D.
up over. Got up on top. There were about 7 of us. I don't remember exactly. When we got to the top, we looked down and there was a little old dirt road, and there were a line of cars, all of our parents, waiting for us at the bottom of that Black Hill.
It feels like it's straight out of like the Christmas Story, kind of, you know.
And then they took us back to the elementary, and each one of us individually went into Mr. Worthen's office as principal.
As in Vernon Worthen, like the park.
He talked to us individually about this is not the way we do things, young men and young women. We were only in the 6th grade, but hey, I'll never forget that.
I want to know if you learned your lesson.
Probably not.
It's incredible. So there's the old Dixie photo. How long's that been there, that sign?
Well, just look at it. It's been there at least since the early, actually probably mid-50s, 1950s.
Yeah.
Because your mother worked there for T.P. Durant, which she went to school here at Dixie College.
I would love to own that little sliver. Then as we keep going, we're on Tabernacle Street. We're now at Capoletti's, which we could sit down for a really lovely lasagna right now. But tell us, give us some history. What was here, was it 50 years ago? Was it 70 years? Could have been 80 years ago?
It would have been between 70 and 80 years ago. This was my father's business right here. It said Larkin Plumbing. It said sporting goods, air conditioning, it advertised. But we'd walk right in that door and you could go in and you could buy a fishing rod, you could buy baseball bat, you could
It was
buy
like
a
Ace
washer
Hardware.
and dryer. So it was kind of a combination plumbing, heating, air conditioning location, but it had sporting goods stuff and other things that you could buy, including appliances, right through that door. That has
Larkin
not
Plumbing and
changed.
Heating and fishing
that little
rods.
V is just exactly the way that door was then. And that was the same there.
And everything is still here.
And everything's
Incredible.
still here. The floor in there is exactly the same floor.
Is it really?
It's still the same as 80 years ago.
And your father, Herman, he had a nickname, which was?
The singing plumber.
It's pretty good.
Because he sang wherever he went.
All right, so the Dixie Academy was here on this block. St. George Academy,
St. George Academy.
which is now Dixie State University.
That's correct. But it's all in that building.
A university that is so big and growing so much that there's a massive controversy about the name, which is for another video,
Yep.
right?
Yes.
So that was this first school, and now we're standing on what is Town Square.
Right.
I think this is kind of fun because how many people do you think are on the square right now?
I'll bet you there's a couple hundred.
There's probably at least 200 people here. It's an April afternoon. They dedicated this in 2007 or 2008, okay? We couldn't quite get the date right, talking to some of the city officials. But the old Washington County Library is here. Remember that ugly
Right.
thing?
But before that, it was the rec hall,
Was it really?
the recreation hall. That's where they had dances, and they had a basketball gymnasium here first for the college. And it was here, and the rec hall. There are two buildings right next to each other.
So two interesting stories as we walk. One is that when they tried to put this town square in, do you remember? People said it was a waste of money.
Oh yeah,
Who will use it, right?
that's right. Why would they spend money for this?
And now it is literally the epicenter of activity downtown. Finish line of the Ironman National and World Championship 70.3. But what about another story? Your brother Gray, rest his soul, was the mayor of St. George in what years?
Well, he served from 73 to 77, 4 years.
And he was pushing for Bluff Street. Tell us the rest of the story.
Well, Bluff Street was just a two-lane, it was paved by then.
2 lanes opposing traffic.
And nobody could figure out why in the world they'd want to make a wider street on Bluff Street and why they would want to spend that money. Good grief, if you go down Bluff Street today, some places it's 6 to 8 lanes.
Six
and
lanes.
it is busy and it can hardly, it can hardly take the traffic sometimes. So it just shows the evolution of St. George. I mean, this area was just quiet. Now it's, like you said, it's the center of town and a place where people love to come.
Well, and what I would, kind of a final thought for me, it's this idea of foresight, where, Gray Larkin in 77 says, I think we need to widen Bluff Street, and people are like,
Why?
you're a heretic, like, what is wrong with you, right? And today it's a super highway. It's actually the best moving road in Washington County.
Yes, thank
Hands
goodness,
down.
Thank goodness.
We wish River Road was that good, but there's been a lot of foresight. And sometimes when people bring, not sometimes, every time some new idea has come, Town Square, Bluff Street, and on, there's resistance.
That's just the way people are.
That's the way it is.
Human
We're all that
nature.
way. Father, I'm so grateful for you.
I'm grateful for
Dale
you too,
Herman
son.
Larkin, Dale H., a true, not really a St. George pioneer, but definitely a living legend. Guys, thanks. Over and out.